Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hello, everybody. I am Ross Morasso. Welcome back to the show. And my guest today, or I should say my returning guest today, Annie Baker Atwood, Master Reiki. Yes, you can find her at redbootsreiki.com. And I'm going to ask you about these red boots here later on. But for now, Annie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. And
as you deal with the metaphysical and communicating with our bodies on levels that a lot of us don't know how to do otherwise, one thing that we have tried to communicate, at least in our own mind, is a bunch of New Year's resolutions, right?
Yes.
So talk to me about what you think how Reiki fits into everybody here as they're getting ready to set a bunch of new goals for themselves.
It's super important, and thank you. When we set goals, we have in our head a desired and intended outcome. That was how we had to, phrase it at policy school. So who are you going to work with? What do you want to have happen? And how are you going to know it's successful? And all policy follows that. Part of that's not in there. I have a master's degree in policy, so I go back to that. So when we have a request or a desire energetically, which is exactly what a New Year's resolution is, we want to know we want to know, how are we going to know if we're successful? Why? Why do we want to be wealthy? Why do we want to be healthy? Healthy, wealthy, and wise is kind of the, trade show. Everybody says that they want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And the same way, if someone throws a ball for you to hit, whether it's whatever kind of ball it is, if you just kind of react to it, you don't have control over where that ball is going. If somebody throws something at you and you're like, whoa, and you just kind of whack the ball, it goes willy-nilly and doesn't really go where you want it to go. What sports do you play? Do you play tennis?
I have in my ute. I used to play some tennis.
All right. So if you had your racket in your hand and you kind of just hit the ball and it went straight up, you hit the ball, right? But did it do you any good?
So just mindlessly taking the action or reacting when it shows up is just it's swinging to nowhere.
Yes. But if you hit the ball with the intention that I am going to hit this ball so that I get a point, in your head, you're already visualizing exactly where that ball is going to go on the court. And you have met your goal. Well, or you're closer to your goal, because tennis players do that every single time they hit a ball. They have an intention about where they want it to go for the express purpose of winning the point.
All right. So let me see if I can say this back to you. So it's like, all right, I want to win the game, or I want to win the tournament. So first I got to win the game, which means I then need to score more points, which comes down to every single serve and volley of, instead of just, I don't want to score a point, it's, in order for me to score said point, I'm going to need to hit it over into that corner of the court. Does it get that specific? Is that worth doing?
Yeah, it really does. So if I want to be, if I say I want to be healthy, what does that really mean? What does that look like for me? So for me at this age, I want to be healthy so that I can sit on the floor and get back up. It's very specific. Does that involve a lot of stretching, exercise, all kinds of things. Yes, it does. But my goal is to be healthy so that I can get on the floor and get back up.
Right. So then reversing everything that I was using in my example, I'm going to hit the ball in that corner so that I can score the point, so that I can win this match,
Yes.
to win the tournament,
Yes.
and so on and so forth.
Yes. So the so that really matters, because if you have a so that that's not very kind, I'm going to hit the ball so it hits him, which is not good sportsmanship. It's still a so that, but it's not a very kind so that. And that gets forgotten.
Well,
And
so let me ask you about this. So that's very interesting, right? So as you talk about, intentionality, right? So you're talking, there's actions, but then as you're that, the why we're doing stuff. And with Reiki, and I've been learning a lot more about this stuff. And
reading up on it.
yeah, as things I wanted to ask you about, your intention is a communication, right? To our mind, body, and spirit of what we're doing. And so if we want to do an action, but the intention has, meanness behind it, for lack of a better term, or is a destructive, in its way, you're looking at, I think, Asian mentalities, spiritualities, and things like that. But, even Hawaii, Hawaiian spirituality, what goes around comes around. And then, and more traditional religions, they will go, treat others as you want to be treated, and all of that stuff. So what are we doing to ourselves when our intention out there is to cause other harm? Or if our intention is truly profoundly selfish in nature at the expense of the world around us?
Generally, those don't get heard.
Oh,
Yeah. Because the universe is not wild about unkind intentions. And so there's all kinds of phrases in there, for the best good of everyone, that kind of get thrown in there. For my highest purpose. So if I'm working on you with Reiki, it's always, this is Annie's higher self talking to Ross's higher self. And when it's that communication, it's for the highest good, for the best outcome. And that's one of the beauties of Reiki, is you really can't get it wrong. When somebody wants to manipulate a situation, then it really gets sticky. So say I had a crush on somebody, and I'm going to set the intention that this guy is going to return all of the attention that I want, but he's not a good energetic match to me. I may get kind of a guidance that this is not a good idea.
So it's like reading the cosmic room.
Yeah. Yeah. And universe is always going to send you in the right direction, even though it doesn't always feel that way. There are definitely some lessons that we are being asked to take a look at during this trip around in your physical body. Your spirits, your inside of you, lasts forever. And your current body is just this lifetime body.
So there's a much larger game going on.
Yes. Yes. So one way to look at it is over the course of your life, if you're a driver, you may have several different cars that you're in. And then if the car, breaks down or gets too old, your physical goes into another car. You're the same person, but now you're just driving a different car. So our souls, our spirits, get a different car, which is this physical, each lifetime.
Right. And you purchase said car from somewhere else in the world too. Right.
I love my car.
So, all right. So as we deal with intentions and things like that, and so it sounds like at the bare minimum, if you have, nefarious intentions, you're probably at the bare minimum just screaming out into the void and you're wasting your time. Another component can be, where we don't think that, or we don't have malicious intentions. However, we do seem to be attached to a certain methodology or a way to get to our outcome, or we are resisting probably, maybe it's the communications of the universe, communications of our own mind, body, and spirit. How can Reiki help us let go? Right?
That is
How does that
a great question. And I call it dropping in because, it's your intuition inside. It's not your outtuition. So when you are setting an intention, does it feel right in your heart? Is this bringing you joy? And that, goes back to what's the so that. So if I say I want to be wealthy, why? What is my so that? Do I want to be wealthy so that I have control over others? Or do I want to be wealthy so that I am generous to others? So really thinking about your language. And a lot of what I do as a Reiki practitioner is I'm hearing and I'm helping rephrase things, put it in the positive, put it in the present. And then if I am doing a session, I'm actually talking with my mind, not out loud, to each one of your energy centers or the chakras to make sure everybody's on the same page. And if something needs a little tweaking, I can do that.
Okay, so you can, and have you seen people when you're in the middle of Reiki, like, I'm curious about this. Like, is there almost a physical manifestation when you can see people letting go? So if I'm doing Reiki or someone else is doing Reiki, are we pretty clear that happened? What happens in the middle of these Reiki sessions? So like, we haven't even talked about that yet at all in the show. And I always like to spend at least a few minutes referencing
I have my little
this for those
bear.
who
I
don't
brought
know.
my bear today.
Okay, so I do a Reiki session. Explain to me like what it is that we're actually doing, and I realize everybody's different, but what are some common things that can happen so we have some expectations walking into the door while still being open-minded to let whatever is going to happen.
Yeah. So when you come in, the first thing is if you are contacting me, we're having an agreement that I can work on your energy. I can't work on somebody's energy who has no interest.
Oh, so we can close ourselves off. Okay.
Yeah, and I've had that happen. I have 4 brothers. This stuff is new. And so it's, that's fine that you do that, but it's not going to work on me. Is definitely can show up. I'm like, okay. But if we've had an agreement that I can work on your energy, the first thing I do is connect with you. And I open up all your energy fields. So that's kind of like clicking all of the things on the breaker box to make sure everything is open and ready. And then I will, add my energy starting with your shoulders. And I'll work my way down. Men are typically asleep in 7 minutes. I time it. Uh, Women, it takes a little longer, but men are typically asleep in 7 minutes. We would have had a conversation beforehand about what it is that you wanted out of the session. So it might be, yeah, I'm playing golf this afternoon and I'm really working on my swing. Like, okay. Or it might just be, I just feel icky. Can you just clear everything out? Sure. If it's something to do with COVID, then I need you to stay awake because that is a little more fine-tuned. And so I'm going to need your feedback as we go.
Like recovering from COVID or long COVID or something like that.
Yeah, because if it's in your lungs, I need to be able to determine, is it sitting in your right lung, which has, more lobes than the left lung? Is it in the lower part of the lung? Is it in the higher part of the lung? And really teasing out, okay, so you're actually only able to access 50% of your lung capacity. Let's see how we can maximize that. But also, where else is it showing up? In very slender women, they get terrible backaches because they're coughing so hard. And so those are some of the things where I would need a little more feedback. But if you just are, wanting to come and relax, I'll scan everything and then I'll start working on your headspace, and you'll actually feel my hands. That's the only time I touch you.
Oh,
and then,
all right. So you're not like pushing on certain parts. Oh, okay.
Nope. My hands hover about 6 inches above you, which means that you're fully dressed. For women, hair and makeup stays. You're not, it's not like a massage where you need to have time to change, get on the table, change back.
Come as you are.
Come as you are. Come as you are. You can be muddy from felling trees and flop down. You can come right from, tennis, golf, sailing, wherever. Doesn't matter. Come as you are.
Let me pause you here for a quick second here. For those of us who joined us in the middle, I'm talking to Reiki Master Annie Baker Atwood, available at redbootsreiki.com. And Reiki is Reiki. And you're walking us through a typical Reiki session. And something you'd also mentioned, and if you can kind of keep pointing to this, you said men fall asleep much quicker than women. And I'm also kind of curious as to what you would attribute to that.
Yeah. The men that I work with are pretty happy to say, I don't know what you're doing, but this works. And they get so relaxed. My son calls it having the bed hug right before you go to sleep. Where you're just like, oh. Women are a little more curious about what I'm doing. And so
they're staying more. So that's where being more alert, because they're just more interested into the process as opposed to only the experience.
Right. And it depends on whether it's the first time I'm working with somebody or, if they're already familiar with me. That makes a difference too. So after I've charged up all of your energy centers, then I go into your headspace.
Okay.
And this is when I'm actually walking your chakras through a cleaning process. And I will tell your chakras, okay, I'm putting you into some beautiful, warm, sudsy water. I'm washing the inside, I'm washing the outside, I'm drying you off, and I'm putting you back in, because cloudy chakras, they just collect stuff, just like your windshield, collects dirt. Chakras do too. And so I go through each of the chakras and clean them all up. Some of them need a little bit more need a little more work. And so they won't be ready to, they might need 2 cycles through a rinse. And then once everybody's all tuned up, I ask you to either lie on your tummy if you can, or lie on your side if you prefer. And then chakras go through you. And so then I need to clear the other side. So if I've started on this side, I need to make sure that I really clear everything through.
Wash all sides of our car as it was.
Yes. Yes. Because even if the outside of your windshield is clear and the inside's all fogged up, you're still not going to be able to see.
Right.
And then if your sunglasses are all, foggy, you really, there's a lot of different layers. But once we're in the back session, I always feel a little awkward asking someone to roll over who's asleep. It can be startling for some people to, because they're hard asleep. And then I recharge each one of the energy centers. I make sure that your feet are cleared, because your instep is how the energy is going to go back to the earth. So if you think about your head, your energy is coming in, and then your feet, it's grounding into the earth, so it can flow through you.
Right.
And if you ever get like a Charlie horse on the inside of your instep, that was just some stuck energy letting go.
No kidding.
Yeah. And then I close up your aura, shiny it up, and you are good to go.
So,
one other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
One other thing I do is I need to clear your adrenals. Your adrenal glands are what absorb all the stress, adrenaline. And so that has to get cleared. And depending on the type of stress, it actually feels different to me. So if it is a sudden illness, when I clear your adrenal glands, it feels kind of like oil. But if it's just chronic stress, it feels more like dryer lint.
Okay, so is this happen in 10 minutes? Is it an hour? How long does this go on for?
Sessions are about 50 minutes.
Okay.
The sessions for, if it's really specific for COVID, it generally is a little less time, because I want you to be able to ask the question. There's a lot more give and take, where I'm saying, okay, are we here? Are we here? Are we here? Let's find out where the energy cycle is stuck. And
Okay.
that's harder work.
Well, hey, it's a labor of love, I guess. But
No, it's not harder work for me, but it's harder work for the person. And so anything that's, harder work, we want to have a shorter session.
All right. So I see, because it's just more exhausting or takes more focus, things like that. Gotcha.
Yes.
All right. So while we have just a few minutes left here, you're showing me your teddy bear as a person's there, but you can do this remotely too, and even with groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work if I'm not in front of your face?
So have we done this yet? Put your hands out like this.
One up, one down.
One up, one down.
Okay.
So when we do this, we're going to establish a connection. And you're going to feel that it's like your hand is breathing. So we start our sessions that way.
Okay.
And it's similar to, you can put your hands down. It's similar to the magic that happens when somebody at the main office fixes the printer here. I don't know how she does that, but she's able to remotely fix the copier in a different location. So I'm able to remotely work on your energy, even if I'm not with you.
You're kind of saying like a cosmic internet.
Yeah.
But we have to make the connection first.
Yes. Well, I can make the connection as long as you've given me permission.
Right.
You don't actually have to feel it, but some people prefer. They feel like, oh, wow, this feels really warm.
And then you can do groups of people at once as well, right?
Yes.
Are they strangers or would this be friends or family generally together? How does that work?
Strangers, it doesn't matter. Just as long as we set a group intention of we're here to receive energy.
I think that would actually be pretty wild to, to do things with strangers, right?
Well, or even a team.
Yeah.
I can charge up an entire team so that they are mentally in tune. As athletes, your brain is your biggest power. And if you have the ability to communicate so specifically with your teammates as a team, you're going to do better or perform better.
So it can work not only for recharging or clearing yourself, but to also sync everybody up together.
Yes. 100%.
Interesting.
And it's not being used that way yet. That's my goal.
But it's available. It's waiting to get these teams together that are going to try this on.
Yes. Call me.
Well, talk to some NFL teams, because apparently in Major League Football, there's a whole lot up in the air right now and a lot of games that people need to be winning. So maybe they could do something with you. So before we go, tell everybody again where they can find you.
You can find me at www.redbootsreiki.com, and my phone number's on there. So, email me, text me, let me know who you are so I know that you're a real person. And I look forward to hearing from everybody who would like a little energetic boost so that you go forth refreshed and just relaxed.
Annie Baker Atwood, Happy New Year to you. Reiki Master, Annie Baker Atwood, I should say. One more time, you can find her at Red Boots Reiki, which is REIKI, based in Blue Hill, Maine, but available anywhere on planet Earth and remotely, whether it's by yourself or, as we were just talking about, with groups. Annie, a pleasure as always. I really hope that we get to talk to you again.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody else who tuned in. I'm Ross Morasso. Until next time.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.